You know what I mean? But it has to be enough to work down into that lower back, squeeze through the hips and the buttocks to protect that lower back, and then raise the forehead up so you can extend energetically out through the forehead. Okay, isometric movement here. I know that sounds freaking technical, but you want to feel your hands pulling to the back of the room, that friction of the hands pulling back, okay, and the feet, the tops of the feet rooting down energetically into the ground. Elbows hugging into the sides, okay? And that's just your basic, small little baby Bhujagasana, you know what I mean? You can always go deeper, you know, as you get more adept, but you want to start there, okay? All right, again, if that's way too much of a challenge, freaking Sphinx, you know, where you use your forearms and the same rules apply. The forearms are directly underneath your shoulders, elbows are directly underneath your shoulders, hands are parallel towards one another, and you pull like isometric movement. Basically the forearms pull back, and that helps to lengthen you in the upper back, okay? And you squeeze through the hips and the buttocks and draw down, you know, activate your quads, feel your kneecaps lift, and draw the head and neck up. A minute and a half. Breathe deeply into that lower back and create as much length and space as you can. And it just helps to activate the sympathetic nervous system. You know, your adrenal glands are directly underneath the shoulder blades, and by doing this, you're actively engaging the muscles to press upon your adrenals, which, you know, activates the sympathetic nervous system, gets things, you know, cooking, and it helps to counter the forward bend. You know what I mean? Your longevity is directly related to the suppleness of the spine. So we're bending forward, we bent forward, and that was an example of just a basic back bend, you know? Again, raise the head and neck first, elbows pull into the sides, shoulders down and away from the ears, root into the palms. Come up, raise that forehead on up, squeeze to the hips and the buttocks, and breathe. Inhale to release, and then on a slow exhale, draw back down to that rib cage, release the head and neck, and then take it easy. You know what I mean? And again, ideally for your back bend, you know, as you develop suppleness in the spine, see if you can hold it for like a minute, you know, or at least challenge yourself. Start with like 15 seconds, build up to 30, 45, then a minute. But ideally, as you get into that space, you want a minute and a half, okay? All right, now, a twist, you know, essentially, Ardha Matsyendrasana is your spinal twist. And for most, you don't even have to do the yoga version. You can just come to like a comfortable seated position, and you could take, like in this instance, left hand to the outside of the right knee, right hand directly back and behind. I hope this isn't reversed, by the way. Sitting up nice and high in the lower back, tilting your pelvis forward and rooting down energetically into your palm, and look out across that right shoulder. Okay, so this would be like, I guess, more so for a beginner. But again, the trick here is roll that shoulder all the way down the back, okay? So none of this. We roll the shoulder down the back, you root energetically into the palm, allow the inner crease of the arm to roll out as you root down, see? So none of this. You roll the shoulder down the back, root into the palm, turn that inner crease of the arm out, use the left arm as a lever, and as you root into that left arm, turn and look out across that right shoulder. Compress the belly all the way into the back. It doesn't have to be a hard compression, but that navel needs to press. They call it Uddiyana Bandha. And as that navel presses, that essentially isolates that core and activates essentially the that energy, it's like almost like an energetic gate, you know, that basically as you squeeze, it helps to draw energy from, you know, the base of the root chakra. It helps to start to squeeze and siphon that energy upward through the spine. And it activates the core, and it really is, I would say, the foundational stabilizer for the lower back, mid back, and the upper back. You see? Looking out across that shoulder, okay? Again, another thing is lifting through the pelvic floor. Once you draw that navel into the back, then squeeze the perineum, that muscle that you use to stop yourself from peeing. And those two in tandem, I'll do a video on that, you know. We'll talk a little bit more extensively about that. But yeah, that's really where you get your juice in the asanas, from the combination of the pelvic floor lift and the abdominal wall pressing into the back of the spine, you know. And that's just a modified with the legs crossed, you know. Some people, like in traditional yoga, you take your right knee, take the right foot, place it directly over the left, you lean to the left, you pull that left ankle directly into the outside of the right hip, wrap your left arm directly around that right knee, sit up nice and straight, right hand back and behind the hip, sitting up nice and straight in that lower back, tilting the pelvis forward, looking out across that right shoulder, and hugging in. You know what I mean? None of this. It's about lengthening, hugging in, and remember, compressing that belly into the back and lifting through the darn pelvic floor combined, and looking out across that right shoulder. Okay? So, and of course, do it on both sides, you know? And the last pose that is absolutely essential, I feel, would be Matsyasana, which, you know, traditionally, you know, well-developed yoga practitioners would prefer to do a headstand or a shoulder stand. But, you know, I know a lot of you just out there just don't vibe with that. You know, they don't feel safe, first of all. They don't feel it's necessary. They can't understand the rationalization for it. Being that what an inversion actually does is it just takes all the blood from the lower extremities and just empties it all down into the heart, you know, so the heart doesn't have to pump so hard to get blood throughout the rest of the body. And so bringing it all to the heart essentially gives the heart a rest. And so in and of itself, that's invaluable. You know, they don't call headstand Shirshasana. They don't call it the king of all asanas for nothing. I mean, it is the most important. But, you know, I understand that, you know, safety is always a thing that people are concerned with. And, you know, technically you can get hurt in that pose. So, Matsyasana, fish. Okay? Again, from a recline, laying, or a recline position. Okay? There we go. If you're lying flat upon the back, okay, basically with your arms directly alongside your hips, you root into your forearms, you lift your upper torso, okay, place the palms directly underneath your hips and buttocks, all right, and just lift, I'd say, just high enough to look out across the toes, okay. Now, here's where things get just a bit dicey. Because if we just drop the head and neck back, because that's where we're going to release the head and neck back, you know, you don't really get much of an expansive quality in the upper chest, you see? So what I want you to really wrap your head around is tilt the pelvis forward, you know? Like, basically take the pelvis and aim those pelvic bones forward, okay? And then pull the shoulder blades together, see? Just like so. Then draw the head and neck back and place the crown down. And once the crown of the head reaches the floor, okay, hold on. Okay, yeah, there was like a, you know, where the actual, it says the battery's low, okay? So let me make sure that y'all are in that. Okay, so if we were from that space, you tilt that pelvis forward, you pull the shoulder blades together, okay? And the palms are directly underneath the buttocks. And then you draw the crown of the head down, okay? And what that does is it's sort of like a minor version of an inversion, but it's not quite the full maha, you know, feet over the head, but it gives you somewhat of a benefit, you know, from the standpoint of there's like a draining effect, you know. It's again, it feels lovely to expand that upper chest and get what I consider the fullest, deepest breath into the fullest regions of the collarbones. You know what I mean? So those are your 4 seed poses that I consider like brushing your teeth. You know what I mean? They just have to be done. If you own a physical body, you've got to be at least doing those 4 to move the energy through the body and begin to at least create a consistency regarding increased digestion, increased blood flow, and oxygenation of the body, you know, to lower the pH in tandem with your breath work. So those 4 poses, you know, give them a whirl. You know, wrap your head around, just begin to move into that space and see what it feels like. And if you have any questions regarding the poses, or if you'd like further instruction, feel free to contact me. My name's Hisham. I live in Walterboro, South Carolina. I'm a yoga instructor here, and I'd be more than, if you're ever in the area and you'd like to come to the gym where I do my privates, you can feel free to come and book a session. But those 4 poses, rock and roll, man. Those are absolute necessity. Absolute necessity. So, you know, get into that space. Enjoy the energetic exchange that comes between you and your body as you establish that intimate relationship with moving energy through the body. And best of luck to you this week. Have a lovely weekend. And I will be in touch very soon. Wholeness.